Things just took a shocking turn with one New York Ranger in particular, as multiple insiders have revealed a wild update on Artemi Panarin and his future in New York. And it's no surprise that the New York Rangers have multiple massive decisions to make this season heading into next offseason to continue to make this team a contender for the Stanley Cup. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 77% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your blue shirts through this offseason, heading into training camp and the preseason, which is right around the corner, this channel is built for blue shirt fandom. So go down below, hit that free subscribe button. This is the place to be for all your daily New York Rangers content. But Bret, let's get right into it. Obviously, we know that the Rangers have a decision to make with Artemi Panarin this season, this upcoming season. He is eligible to sign a contract extension right now. He hasn't yet, and honestly, I don't think that's a bad thing for either side right now, because you do want to kind of see how things go, because it's a very interesting situation. A lot of really good free agents available next year, but let's jump right into it. We have some different and conflicting reports to a degree from a couple different insiders. First one is Frank Seravallian on Artemi Panarin. He's saying, I think there's a deal on the table that makes sense for both sides, or will be at some point during this upcoming season. Let's see how that plays out. He also went on to say that he does believe that there's a deal that does make sense for both sides and that it could happen in season. It depends on how the season goes. And speaking of that as well, very curious for your thoughts on this, and everyone down below in the comments as well. David Pagnotta is saying on Panarin's future, if the Rangers by the halfway point, so halfway, not necessarily Thanksgiving, which is usually where I at least, see what teams are going to make the playoffs, right? You have an idea at that point. If they're floundering a little bit, it wouldn't shock me at all to see Panarin starting to steal some more headlines, which I think is a nice way of just kind of floating out the fact that he might be traded at that point in time, where they have to at least start looking at trading him. So what do you make of both of these reports? I'm not entirely, shocked by the fact that, the Rangers could actually re-sign Panarin, right? A lot of people are saying just let him walk and then go out and sign Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov. We're going to talk about that and those possibilities as well. But what do you make of these reports?
Yeah, what I make of it is it would actually be a very, dumb decision to sign Artemi Panarin during the season. And the reason that is, Darius, is because, we've spoken about it here on the channel that, you can't make moves, thinking about next off season
Yep.
and making it your only focus. You still have to go about your business. You need to be smart, keep it in the back of your mind. But I believe that signing Artemi Panarin during the season would put them in a position where, they should be exploring next offseason and see who actually hits the open market. When it comes to Artemi Panarin and his agent, I know that they are praying that Connor McDavid reaches an agreement in Edmonton. I know that they are praying Kirill Kaprizov and the Minnesota Wild come to terms on a contract, because if that were the case, they would hold all the cards, they would hold all the leverage. Right now, the Rangers have the leverage because there are a lot of talented players set to hit the open market next offseason. Not only that, but talented players who are better than Artemi Panarin. Artemi Panarin is still a stud. I understand the age, but he still continues to produce year in and year out. But make no mistake about it. I know he said he wants to get paid like a premier player, but this is not the same player that the Rangers signed in 2019. I would still like to have him back. I would still love to find a way to make him fit alongside a Connor McDavid or a Kirill Kaprizov or a Jack Eichel, somebody of that caliber. But look, there is a world where the Rangers could let Artemi Panarin walk and still be fine. They'd be able to bring in two premier talents. It's not like the end of the world if Artemi Panarin were to leave and go to another organization. And here's the other thing. If the Rangers are floundering and are having a very bad year like they had last year and really want to move Artemi Panarin, there will be a team willing to offer a king-size ransom for this player. And I understand he's a rental. He's about to become a free agent. But if you talk about one of these playoff contenders looking to get over the hump, looking to get past the Florida Panthers, who seem unbeatable right now, back-to-back Stanley Cup champions, you will do whatever it takes to bring Artemi Panarin to finish that puzzle. So it would behoove the Rangers, to not take calls on Panarin if they are struggling. They have to do that because they could get a lot in return for this guy. But the Rangers should just wait until the deadline and then evaluate. I would like to see the bread man back, but all options are on the table.
Absolutely. I think and all options should be on the table because it's going to be a very interesting offseason next year. And I think with Artemi Panarin, if you look at his projected salary from Scotia Stat projections heading into next year, the one thing that jumps off the page to me, it's not necessarily the money. I know the salary cap's going up in the 4-year term or anything like that. If you look at the comparables on the right side, nobody there makes more than $10 million and or more than $9.5 million. And that's Ovechkin. And that was his last contract. So you have to keep that in mind as well, right? So do you want to pay a guy like Panarin that at the end of the contract will be 38 years old, right? Because if you do that, you kind of handcuff yourself a little bit where you can't go out and sign anybody else on this list. And of course, we're talking about the big fish. I mean, we're talking about Connor McDavid, Jack Eichel, Kirill Kaprizov. If you could land one of those guys, that is franchise altering. But not only that, if you sign Panarin, you might take yourself out of the running for even a guy like Adrian Kempe, who I know, Bret, you're a big fan of and would make a huge difference on this New York Rangers team. A great two-way player that can score a ton of goals and will probably sign for roughly $10 million, but has a lot of really good hockey and a lot of good years left in those legs. So that could be something interesting that the Rangers have to at least consider. To sign him in season, like you said, would be a little ridiculous, I think, would really handcuff this team heading into the next couple of years. The fan base could turn on a guy like Artemi Panarin very quickly if you were to sign for a lot of money, like we saw with Shesterkin last year. Again, I think it's a bit ridiculous. I think Shesterkin's probably the best goaltender in the league. You got to get paid for that if you're the best. So obviously, I think it was a good deal to get the goaltender locked up. As we've seen with the Edmonton Oilers, if you don't have a goaltender, you can't really win in this league. So it does make a huge difference. Now, one thing I wanted your thoughts on as well, and I thought this was very interesting, is bench rates has a lot of advanced analytics. And if you look at over the last couple of years, Panarin, again, like I just mentioned from Scotia Stat projections, roughly, 4 years, $10.5 million. That's what the projection is right now. But if you look at this over the last couple of seasons, 2021, 2022, he's playing at a $10.7 million pace. The next year, $9 million. Obviously, 23-24 was an amazing year. He was playing at almost a $13 million pace. And then last season, 7.5. So to me, he's like an $8 to $9 million player. And on top of, at least at this point in his career, of course, and he's getting older, right? If you're going to sign him, the contract's expiring when he's 37, 38. So these are all things you have to consider. So would you then, sign him? Would you let him walk for, or I should say, would you sign him for like $8 to $9 million, maybe a shorter term, maybe 3-4 years? Or would you let this player walk and take your chances with a guy like Connor McDavid, Kirill Kaprizov, Kyle Connor, the list goes on and on?
Yeah, I would sign this player to an $8 to $9 million contract, no problem. But here's the thing, I'm not willing to put an exact number, an exact year on it at this moment. But here's what I would establish if I'm Chris Drury. There's going to be some give and take here. There has to be some compromise between the Rangers and Artemi Panarin. We are not going to give you the money that we gave you in 2019. You are not the same player. You are still a very effective player, but you are obviously older. But here's the thing. If you want more money, you're going to have to come down on the years. If you want more years, you're going to have to come down on the money. It's as simple as that. And his will, to win with the Rangers is going to be tested. We're going to really see this offseason how bad Artemi Panarin wants to win. This is a player that has never won a Stanley Cup like Connor McDavid, who you just spoke about. We know McDavid is itching to win. We saw it when he just lost in the Stanley Cup, how furious he was in his post-game media availability. Even right now, you can see he seems ticked off. Something is clearly bothering McDavid. We will see how bad Panarin wants to win. Because if next offseason comes and there are rumblings like there were this offseason with Gavrikov, there were rumblings the entire offseason that Gavrikov was coming. If we see something next offseason where, word is getting through the grapevine that, Kyle Connor wants to join the Rangers, or Connor McDavid or Kirill Kaprizov wants to join the Rangers, Artemi Panarin, it is up to you to decide. Are you going to be greedy and look for well over $10 million and put the Rangers in an uncomfortable position to bring in a player that's better than you? Or are you going to be like a John Tavares, for instance, in Toronto, who wanted to stay in Toronto, who wants to win in Toronto, wants to make it to where they could be as flexible as possible? Is Artemi Panarin going to take that path? I believe he should, because he's been very productive. The Rangers have had playoff success since he's been here, but they have not won a Stanley Cup since 1994. They have won Stanley Cup in the past 85 years. So Panarin, if there is word that McDavid wants to come to New York and you don't take somewhat of a pay cut for that, then we don't want you here, because that means that you are greedy and you don't care about the ultimate goal, which is winning a Stanley Cup.
I think that, there's a lot of fan bases around the league that turn on players for that exact reason. And, like brought up in that tweet before about Igor Shesterkin and that whole contract situation last year, that, a lot of fans don't believe that the goaltender should make that much. Again, I don't agree with that. I think that he should. He's one of the best in the league, if not the best. But something like that, with an aging player, if his production's going down, if he's signing for over $10 million, that could get pretty ugly in terms of, is he holding the team back from signing somebody else that's younger, probably more effective than him at this point, and can make them a contender? It should be pretty interesting. But we want to hear what you have to say about all of this in the comments. Very interesting update on Artemi Panarin. I feel like it could go either way. It's probably 50-50 at this point in time. Let us know how you feel in the comments. The conversation always continues there. And of course, on X, you can find the link in the description. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.